All right, you have got to hear this one because this is one of those stories that just sounds completely made up. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar cyber heist, a wild party boy lifestyle, and how the whole thing came crashing down. All because of a single, simple phone call to 911.
And yeah, that's really the big question, isn't it? How does somebody pull off one of the biggest crypto heists in history, stay completely off the radar for years, and then accidentally blow their own cover just by asking the cops for help? Well, the thread that unraveled this whole thing, it starts with a much, much smaller number.
$400,000. Look, for you or me, that is a ton of money. But for the guy making this 911 call, it was basically pocket change.
So picture this. It's September 13th, 2019, in the small city of Athens, Georgia. A young guy named Zhong calls 911. He's reporting a simple burglary, says he's got security footage and everything. What the police had no way of knowing was that this totally routine call was about to crack open a 7-year-old cold case worth billions.
So, to really get how a simple burglary report led to all this, you first have to understand the guy who made the call, Zhong, or at least the person everyone thought he was. On the surface, Jimmy was living a life that most of us can only dream about. He was this recent college grad known all over town as the party boy, and he was famous for being ridiculously generous. I mean, we're talking about parties that cost $500,000, flying his friends on private jets to football games, and just casually buying drinks for entire bars. If anyone asked where the money came from, he'd just say he got into Bitcoin early and it paid off. And you know what? With crypto going crazy, people pretty much just bought it.
But the real source of all that cash wasn't some brilliant investment strategy. Nope. It came from a massive crime he committed years earlier, on one of the darkest corners of the internet. So for anybody who doesn't know, think of Silk Road as like the original illegal Amazon. It was this dark web marketplace where you could anonymously buy anything from drugs to weapons, all using Bitcoin. Basically, a digital haven for criminals. And it's where our story really kicks off.
And this number right here, this is the key to the entire mystery. 51,680. That's the exact number of Bitcoin that just vanished from Silk Road way back in 2012. For years, federal investigators had absolutely no clue where it went. Okay, so here's how the timeline connects. In 2012, all that Bitcoin gets stolen. A year later, the FBI successfully shuts down Silk Road. But that specific pile of crypto, still gone. The case goes completely cold for 7 long years. And then, in 2019, this federal cybercrime unit who still got the cold case open hears about Zhong's 911 call. Some supposed Bitcoin millionaire in a quiet college town just got robbed of $400,000. You better believe that set off some alarm bells.
The investigators had this hunch. I mean, it was a total long shot, but it was the first real lead they'd had in years. So they decided it was time to pay Jimmy a little visit. And what they did next, this is just some seriously clever police work. 3 officers in plain clothes show up at Jimmy's house, acting like they're just there to help him with his robbery case. Jimmy, trying to be helpful, even shows him his tiny Bitcoin mining setup. But the blockchain expert on the team knew right away there's no way that little setup could generate the kind of money Jimmy was throwing around. So while one officer kept Jimmy talking, another one sneakily got on his laptop and copied a Bitcoin address. And that was everything.
That analysis was the smoking gun. The transaction history was a straight line right back to the Silk Road heist in 2012. They knew Jimmy was their guy. But okay, knowing he did it is one thing, actually finding a multi-billion-dollar fortune is another thing entirely.
So armed with this information and a search warrant, they went back. Only this time, they weren't pretending to help him anymore. They were there to find the loot.
Just imagine the scene, right? Cops are everywhere, tearing the house apart. They're tapping on floor tiles, looking for hidden compartments, trying to find some kind of secret safe or hidden device that could be holding billions of dollars. And where do they finally find it? Not in some high-tech vault, not buried in the yard. No, it was sitting inside an old empty Cheetos popcorn tin. I'm not making this up.
So they pop the lid, and inside there's just a small towel. They lift it up, and underneath is this tiny little computer board. It was a hardware wallet, a physical device for storing crypto completely offline.
And on that one tiny little circuit board was the entire stolen fortune. Over 50,000 Bitcoin, which, at the time they found it, was worth an absolutely mind-blowing $3.5 billion. And it all unraveled because of his 9/11 call about a missing $400,000. The irony is just off the charts. So, Jimmy's caught.
the case is solved. But believe it or not, the story still has a few more bizarre twists left.
So you might be wondering, how did he even pull this off? Was he some kind of super hacker? Well, no, not really. Turns out, Jimmy was just a regular user on Silk Road, buying stuff. One day, he stumbled on a glitch in the website's code, a loophole that accidentally let him withdraw other people's money into his account. So he just kept doing it, over and over, until he drained 51,680 Bitcoin.
And then you have the sentence. For a crime valued at $3.5 billion, one of the biggest heists in history, Jimmy Hong was sentenced to just 1 year and 1 day in federal prison. I mean, the gap between the scale of the crime and the punishment, it's just staggering. And this brings us to the final, absolutely perfect twist. So the FBI now has billions of dollars in stolen property, and legally, they have to try and return it. So they actually put out a public notice asking the original owners of the Bitcoin from the 2012 Silk Road heist to please come forward and claim their funds.
So how many people do you think came forward to claim their share of those billions? You guessed it, 0. A big fat 0. Not a single person. Because of course, to claim the money, you'd have to admit you are a drug dealer or a weapons trafficker on an illegal marketplace.
In the end, it's just this incredible story of dumb luck, even dumber carelessness, and a fortune that was so toxic nobody could even touch it. Which really leaves us with a fascinating question, right? It's easy for us to judge from the sidelines, but if a life-changing billion-dollar fortune was sitting there, and it was legally yours for the taking, but the only price was outing yourself and admitting to all your past crimes, what would you do?